Okay, so this is Warriors of God, the Lion of Winter scenario. The only special rules in this is the only people who can lead the English longbows are Richard the First, the Lion-Hearted, Edward the First, and Robin Hood. Anyone can create the Welsh longbow and raise them. And then there's an additional rule: if Robin Hood commands at least one longbow troop strength point, add one to his battle command rating. I think that's in addition to his intrinsic. I believe he has an intrinsic longbow strength point. If so, it just wouldn't make sense, right? Okay. I made an error, probably two, in the rules. Well, one was an error of neglect, and I caught this the first time I did this. And it's, hey, I forgot to tell you what the big effect of the aggressor marker is. And what it is if if you're fighting a battle and you're the aggressor, you're the person who moved into the space first. It's only in a field battle. You have to get a hit. You have to get a hit every third round, at least, or else you're going to be forced to retreat. And that's why there's this first round missed, second round missed. Well, if you miss on the third round after that, you will be forced to retreat with all the penalties of a retreat, including, the free attack by the enemy, etc. Okay, the second thing, I think I didn't bother looking at the rules. Hey, we don't want to do that. But I just went with my gut instinct here, and I think I've made this mistake other times I played and had to clean it up and start over again, which is exactly what I had to do here. That video will be available just for shits and giggles, I guess. But the bravery rating is the first rating. The combat battle rating is the second rating. Yeah, I didn't notice it until Eleanor of Aquitaine showed up. And I said, hey, I don't think her personal combat was that much better than everyone else's. And I do think she should be leading more than one unit. So yeah, I have a video of first turn where all the battles were fought out in the reverse order. And it's just very silly. And I mean, if I looked at this, I would say, no, that doesn't make sense anyway. But it definitely shook me up with Eleanor. Well, let's get started on this one. Make things a little noisier. I need some air. Alright. So, following our handy-dandy sequence of play, well, in the first turn of the game, there's, and this is on the rulebook back, somewhere down here, selecting non-aligned leaders. The way this is going to work, both players roll the dice. Whoever gets the higher number, and I'll use red for the English, ends up getting the their choice of the two non-aligned leaders. And right now that's Robert of Gloucester over here and King David of Scotland. They have their advantages and disadvantages. They're not one clearly better than the other. Well, the French get the first choice. And this is kind of a hard call, because Robert of Gloucester probably more or less ensures that the French are going to keep England. So I think they're going to go with him, forcing the English to take David of Scotland, who's not as good a leader, but he has the bonus that he's going to add this extra territory of Scotland to the English. In my first play, it didn't work out that way, and the French ended up with both England and Scotland. But, okay. Now we're going to go into the impulses to determine who goes first. And that's done the same way, rolling two dice. If you remember from the rules. Okay, so the English win the initiative. And they're going to get 1, the number on the lower die, plus 2, 3 impulses, and the French only get 2. And now you got to start making your decisions. And this game is filled with decisions. Matilda would love to go take England. I don't think that's possible. Oh, there was another rule I forgot to mention, the flypaper rule. That's, you can't move out of an area if there are enemy leaders there unless you have more leaders. And you've got to leave the leaders you have present stuck. Basically, you have to screen your enemy with as many leaders as he has in that area. Which is kind of a weird situation, but very much depicts that you couldn't just abandon an area. Okay. So David up in Scotland, I think he's doing his best up there. I don't see a reason to pull him down. He's not very effective anyway. But here's the question. Matilda and Geoffrey versus Louis. I think Geoffrey's better than Louis. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to chunk him into the Ile-de-France. And that puts it on the French. And now, what do? And this is a good question. There aren't any control markers on the map to be flipped. They could attack David, because to tell you the truth, Robert is better than David. Stephen, not so much. He just leads more troops, which they have. But Matilda becomes a threat then. She's got a decent number of troops and could possibly take England on her own in that case. So I think the French are going to pass, holding on to England. And now the English have to make their decision. Do they march into Ile-de-France with Matilda, who may not actually help things? Oh no, she will, because Geoffrey's got 2 stars as well, so he can actually lead the forces. And try to guarantee that the French do not get the Ile-de-France. And a good shot at getting control of it. We're losing England, there's no question there. But I don't think we can win England as easily. That puts it on the French again. And at this point, yeah, I want to go somewhere. I'm going to go up to Scotland and challenge David. Now, the English could come out of Ile-de-France, but they're not going to make it to England. So they pass as well. And that's that. Now, we go to resolving the battles. Let's pick one. Well, let's start with the easy one up here in Scotland. I think I screwed up that too. Okay. So Robert of Gloucester is allowed to roll 2 dice in battle. And, believe it or not, he has 2 strength points there. 1 here and 1 under himself. David's only allowed to roll 1 die in battle. Or no, he's allowed to roll 5 dice in battle. Sorry about that. He also has 2. 1 strength point in his intrinsic. But here's the thing. Robert's dice are at +1 because he has a higher bravery rating. So he only needs 5s and 6s to hit, whereas David needs 6s. We make a quick roll. David does not hit, but Robert does. And that's a strength point against here. Now here's the thing. David could flee now. He's definitely at a disadvantage. He's only going to have 1 die against 2, and those 2 are at a bonus. He could flee to Ireland, or he could fight on. And if he fought on, there would well, if he doesn't fight on, Robert gets a free swing at him. That's the problem. I think David's going to run away, though, and give Robert that free swing. Now, these are at +1 for the bravery, but also +1 because of running away. That makes it very likely he's going to hit, but hurting the person holding the territory. Yeah, hurting Robert isn't going to do much. And they both miss. David gets away. He gets a disgraced marker, which doesn't really matter because here he is in Ireland. That's not going to affect anything. He can't control Ireland. Now let's go to this other battle. We have Louis here. And we're facing Matilda and Geoffrey. Well, Louis is going to get all 4 dice that he produces here. Right? 3 for the units, 1 for himself. He's got a 5 battle command rating. He gets that whole set of dice. But the English have to choose who's going to command. And I think Geoffrey's the better leader. So the English are only going to take 3 dice, because that's his battle command rating. But there'll be a +1 over Louis. Matilda would get more dice, but no bonus. Okay, so given that, we roll the dice with the red ones looking for 5s and 6s. And each side gets a hit. So I'll take one of Matilda's strength points. Take one of Louis' strength points. And now Louis could retreat if he wants. He feels like he's outclassed. But he's not a terribly good leader. This is his area. So he's going to keep fighting, even though he's down to 3 dice now. And Geoffrey's still at 3 dice. It's a no-hit. So the attacker gets a first round miss. It doesn't have to be the very first round. It's just you collect up any set of misses there. Now Louis is feeling a little better. Hey, I get 2 more of them. I win the battle no matter what. He could not have taken this as a siege because he didn't own the Ile-de-France yet. Okay, so now that hit went away, or the miss went away, but the English got 1 hit. The French got 2. Let's see here. That's the ending situation. Do the French want to leave? They're going to have 2 dice, whereas the English are still at 3 dice. You know, in for a penny, in for a pound. The point is, if I run away, I'm probably going to get killed either way. I mean, even if I stay, I'm going to... If I run away, I'm probably going to get killed. So I might as well stay and see if I can wipe them out. Right? I don't know. Having leaders is really valuable. Louis not... I'm not going to win this as the French, so I'm running. I don't think I'm going to... I mean, if I cause 2 hits, something happens, but that's so unlikely. So I'm going to run. The English get a free shot at me, and it's at +2. +1 because of the battle ratings, or because of the bravery ratings, and +1 because I'm running. Same situation David faced. They get 3 dice still, 1 for the troop and 1 for the personal forces. And they hit twice. Hitting twice is bad. That means Louis' own force has been hit, and we have to roll on... Oh, the elimination chart. Okay. Now his rank is 3 stars, so I roll 1 die and add 3. He gets a big 9. He's just routed. So he'll go into the routed units box for the turn. He'll be showing up... Put him in the French one. He'll be showing up later in the turn along with the reinforcements. Which isn't much but worse than retreating because he wasn't going to sway any territory with a retreat. Okay. So now... we have to determine areas of control. Okay, well, there are a number of possible areas of control, but let's look at them individually. First of all, Ireland. Ireland can't be controlled. It's a non-contested area. On top of that, David's disgraced. Over here in Scotland, Robert could control Scotland. He doesn't have any mercenaries. Nobody does at the beginning of the game. He only has 1 star, though. That means he needs a 1 to gain control of the area. Not very likely, and he doesn't. Over here, Stephen, he only has 2 stars, no mercenaries, but it's his home area. So Stephen gains control of England. And that's right, he's the King of England, right? Okay, but Matilda has somehow wandered in and captured France. Now she and or Geoffrey only have 2 stars, so that on a 1 or a 2 they will get control of the Ile-de-France, which would kind of even things up. They do not get that, so no control is there. All right. Well, we're gonna have a lot less troops this game than my last attempt. Raise troops and place mercenaries. Okay. Well. For one thing, all the mercenaries show up on the board at this point. Let's just put them out. Okay. And Lorraine. Okay. What about raising troops, though? You can only raise troops where you control the space. Now, here's the problem. That's 1 space in the game. Stephen can raise troops. He can raise himself 3 points of troops, and those could all be infantry. He could also raise himself some English knights. He can't command them. Only 3-star leaders can command them. And this is something you have to do throughout the game, is look at the leaders that are coming in. So, the English are going to get a 3-star leader. They can't set him up in England. He's not going to get those knights. So that's not really a threat if they're created. The French don't get any, except they have Louis here, who's probably going to come on. Now, if they bring him on in England, he could command those knights. If they bring him in Ile-de-France, he would get 3 infantry in Ile-de-France, but be the aggressor. And that's kind of a tough call, because Stephen can't command everything, but I think he's just going to create infantry nevertheless. Okay. Now I have to mark that the English had the initiative because that remains important, and I've kind of wiped that out with the way the track is set up in the past. Okay. So that's the only troop creation that's going on here. No one else controls any territories. And that can happen in this game where not many things happen. Not many troops happen. Now we would be able to deploy troops and recruit mercenaries. And again, the non-initiative player is going to go first here. Deploying means moving them among your interconnected areas. Well, the French only own England and the English own nothing, so there are no interconnected areas. However, they can grab some mercenaries. And in this case, I believe Robert of Gloucester can grab some of these Irish. Let's see what the grabbing mercenaries is. Only into areas you control. Yep, he can't bring the mercenaries into Scotland because he doesn't own Scotland. So actually, nobody can raise mercenaries except for David. And David's able to take command of the entire Irish army, which he will do. Note that Stephen can't grab these yet. It's only for grabbing the mercenaries and moving troops around. Dispose of captured leaders. There were no captured leaders. Determine leader death. Well, we have leaders who may have died. Basically, everyone in the game has a chance of dying on a 1, and that includes Louis up there in the box. Alright, well, let's start with our man in Ireland. No. Scotland. Yep, Robert of Gloucester's dead. His backside is himself, so he's just dead. He won't come in with some other leader later. Over to Stephen of Blois. No. Matilda. Geoffrey. Alright, so we had one death. Throw him in the box, move him later. And now we're going to be placing... Oh, I forgot to roll for Louis up there. No, he's not dead. Okay, now we're going to place the leaders on the board. And at this point, the English had the initiative. So the French get their choice of Geoffrey of Anjou or Eleanor of Aquitaine. Geoffrey ends up with this. Eleanor ends up with a good shot at Aquitaine. I am going to place Eleanor in Aquitaine. She has 2 stars, so she gets 2 troops with her. Which means the English get Geoffrey of Anjou. He also has 2 stars. I see no reason not to start him in Anjou. I'm low on troops, so he'll show up there. Hey, we have 2 Geoffrey of Anjous. How about that? Okay. I'm sorry, this is Geoffroy. We have some additional leaders to place, though. And we have to decide how that's going to be handled. The French have to decide first. They're going to put Gerard of Verly. He's not terribly useful for anything else, so we're putting him in Poitou. And we're going to gain control of Poitou if we can. Raymond V, Languedoc. I'm wondering if this is... I was wondering this before, but people might not be listening. If this is the Cather, I think it is. Now I have Louis. And Louis is a hard choice. I could put him up in England and grab those 3 troops, but by not taking the knights, I think I decided not to do that. I could put him or anyone up in Scotland and grab that unit. Again, I get 3 bonus infantry if I place him in the Ile-de-France. But here's what happens. The aggressor marker goes there. That means when there's a battle in Ile-de-France, and there's almost certain to be one, Louis is going to have the aggressor penalty against him. Well, now we look at the English side of things, and I'm definitely placing Henry here in Normandy because he gets his bonus troops there. But I'm going to place Becket up in England. He gets his 1 home troop there. He can't refuse this. And an aggressor marker for him. He's leading sort of a rebellion against England at that point, up there. Okay, why would he want to refuse that strength point? Well, if he was the non-initiative player, he could grab these strength points and deprive some from Stephen, but he can't do that. He has to take his starting strength. Okay, well, we're almost at the end here. Dispose of unassigned units. Again, the non-phasing player goes first. There's only these. Stephen can take all 3 of them, but he has to leave 1 behind. What else is unassigned? Only 1 more unit. This French unit, Thomas Becket will pick that up. And he feels like he has a pretty good shot against Stephen as it is. Okay. Now we adjust the score. And let's look at the scoring here. Control of England by the French player. Yes, the French control England. So they get a point for that. Control of an area with a value of 3. Well, only 1 area is controlled. That's England. The French control that. That's worth 2 more victory points for them. Areas with less than 3, no. Leaders killed, no. Enemy king killed, no. Enemy leader in your captured leader's box, no. Speaking of kings, I always forget this. But after leaders are placed, you have to place kings, and we have them now. The French didn't count as a king last turn. Now they do, and getting Louis killed would be worth a victory point at this point. An additional one beyond what there would be before. Okay, well, that's this first round. We're going to move on into the second round, or the second turn of the game. And I probably do it in a little less detail, but I wanted to capture a lot of the mechanics as I went through them. Alright. Oh, and these come off the board at this point. And they're always dancing on and off the board, on and off the board. And this disgraced marker comes off. And we're ready for that next turn. Oh, and this guy cannot stay. We're ready to start the next turn, rolling for initiative, and see what happens there.